Motown gave them exactly one hit each, kept the money that came with it, and never expected any of them to fight back in court. 9 of them did anyway.
Oh, baby.
Everybody knows the Motown legends who became household names. Almost nobody remembers the artists who had exactly one big record, got squeezed out by the same machine that made the Supremes and the Temptations famous, and then spent years, sometimes decades, in courtrooms trying to get back what they were owed. Some of these names you'll recognize instantly the second you hear the song. Others you've probably never heard of at all, but every single one of them fought Berry Gordy's company for their money, and by the end of this list, you'll understand exactly why the phrase one-hit wonder doesn't begin to cover what these artists actually went through. Let's get into it. Number 10, Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers, Does Your Mama Know About Me?
Maybe I shouldn't worry.
In 1968, a Canadian soul band, led by singer Bobby Taylor, released a single called Does Your Mama Know About Me? A smooth, socially aware love song about an interracial relationship that climbed to number 29 on the pop charts and number 5 on the R&B charts.
But I've been through this before, and I'd like to get things straight.
It remains, to this day, the song most people associate with Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers, and it's genuinely the only major hit the group ever had. Here's what most fans don't know. Taylor is the reason the Jackson 5 exist as Motown artists in the first place. In 1968, his band shared a bill with a family group from Gary, Indiana, at Chicago's Regal Theater, and Taylor was so impressed, he personally brought the young Jacksons to Detroit and arranged their audition with Motown executive Suzanne DePass. He went on to produce their first album, shaping the sound that would make them global superstars.
She says, forget about me.
Taylor received little formal credit for that work, and by 1971, frustrated with Motown's financial arrangements and the way the label had begun sidelining him, he departed the company entirely in a dispute over money. What happened next is remarkable. According to multiple music historians and archival accounts, Bobby Taylor later successfully sued Motown for a substantial sum, recovering compensation the label had never volunteered to pay him. Taylor relocated to the United Kingdom afterward, formed a new version of the Vancouvers, and continued recording for smaller labels for years, largely out of the spotlight compared to the artists he'd helped launch. Does Your Mama Know About Me is widely available to stream and watch today, along with archival footage of the Vancouvers performing, a reminder that the man behind one of Motown's most important discoveries had to take the label to court just to get paid for his own work. Number 9 belongs to a group whose entire identity was built around a single, unforgettable draft notice. Number 9, The Monitors. Greetings, this is Uncle Sam. In 1966, a Detroit vocal group called The Monitors released a song built around one of the most anxiety-inducing phrases of the entire decade, the opening line of a military draft notice.
This is Uncle Sam.
Greetings, this is Uncle Sam became a modest hit, charting on the R&B side and capturing a very specific, very real fear that millions of young American men were living through during the escalation of the Vietnam War.
I want to take you to a far.
It remains the only song most listeners can name from the Monitors' entire catalog, a group that recorded steadily for Motown throughout the mid-1960s, without ever breaking through to the same level of stardom as the label's bigger acts.
Roll awful plan. I need to
Like many of Motown's mid-tier groups, the Monitors found themselves competing for promotional attention against a roster that included the Supremes, the Temptations, and the Four Tops, acts that consistently received the label's biggest budgets and its most aggressive push. As the years went on and Motown's accounting practices toward its lesser-known artists came under increasing public and legal scrutiny throughout the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, groups like the Monitors became part of a much larger wave of former Motown acts pursuing the label for royalties they said they were never properly paid. A wave that included stars and one-hit acts alike, all making the same basic argument, that the company had profited enormously off records the artists themselves saw almost nothing from. Greetings, this is Uncle Sam is available to stream and watch today, a strange and oddly timeless piece of Motown history from a group most casual fans have never heard of. Number 8 comes from a man whose voice sounded uncannily like one of Motown's biggest stars, and whose own recordings almost never made it out of the vault.
say goodbye to all your buddies.
Number 8. R. Dean Taylor, Indiana Wants Me.
If a man ever needed dying, he did.
R. Dean Taylor was a Canadian singer and songwriter who spent most of his Motown career working behind the scenes, co-writing hits for other artists, including Love Child for Diana Ross and the Supremes.
No one had the right to say.
In 1970, he stepped out from behind the boards to release Indiana Wants Me, a dramatic, spoken-word-driven single about a man on the run after killing someone in self-defense, complete with actual police siren sound effects woven into the track.
What he said about you.
The song became a genuine hit, climbing into the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100, an enormous success for an artist who wasn't even meant to be Motown's next big performing star.
And it's so cold and lonely here without you.
It remains, by a wide margin, the song Taylor is remembered for, everything else in his catalog existing largely in the shadow of that one dramatic single.
Out there the laws are coming.
Taylor's relationship with Motown grew complicated as the label increasingly shifted its focus and resources toward Los Angeles in the early 1970s, leaving several of its Detroit-era artists, songwriters, and producers feeling squeezed out of a company that had once felt more like a family business.
Wants me, Lord, I can't go back there.
Like many of his peers from that era, Taylor found himself, in the years that followed, among the long list of former Motown talent pursuing the company for money tied to decades of record sales that had never been properly accounted for.
Go back there. I wish I had you to talk.
Indiana Wants Me is widely available to stream and watch today, complete with its famous siren intro, a genuine one-hit wonder from a songwriter better known for the hits he wrote for everybody else.
It hurts to see.
Number 7 belongs to a singer whose voice was so powerful she once had to record standing several feet back from the microphone, and whose entire Motown output amounted to just one true hit.
The man that I've become.
Number 7. Yvonne Fair, It Should Have Been Me.
Gave me a smile. Then the
Yvonne Fair spent years working around the edges of the Motown family before the label finally released her lone full-length album, The Bitch Is Black, in 1975, nearly 7 years after she first signed.
the preacher joined their hand.
Fair's voice was so forceful, so full of raw power, that engineers reportedly had her stand unusually far from the microphone just to keep her vocals from overwhelming the recording equipment.
People began.
The album's centerpiece, a cover of the song It Should Have Been Me, became a substantial hit in the United Kingdom in the winter of 1976, climbing into the top 5 on the British charts, and turning Fair into a genuine Northern Soul favorite, even as the record barely registered back home in the United States. It remains the song Yvonne Fair is remembered for today, a single moment of real crossover success after nearly a decade of Motown, mostly leaving her career on the shelf.
Oh, it should have been me.
That 7-year gap between signing and actually releasing an album says everything about how Motown treated artists it wasn't actively grooming for superstardom.
You know it should have been me.
Fair's story mirrors dozens of other Motown signees from that era, immensely talented performers whose material sat unreleased for years while the label poured its resources into its biggest names, only for those same artists to later discover just how little of the eventual profits from their work had ever made it back to them.
Baby, how can you do this?
It Should Have Been Me is available to stream and watch today, one of the great overlooked vocal performances in the entire Motown catalog.
To me.
Number 6 is about a man whose romantic ballad became an unlikely soundtrack to protest marches, and whose entire hit-making career fits onto a single 7-inch record.
You made a promise that we never.
Number 6, The Originals, Baby I'm For Real.
You don't understand.
In 1969, a Motown vocal group called The Originals released Baby I'm For Real, a lush, string-heavy ballad written and produced by Marvin Gaye, specifically for them.
How much I love you, baby.
The song became their signature moment, climbing to number 1 on the R&B charts and becoming one of the most beloved deep catalog ballads in the entire Motown songbook.
And how much I wanna be your only.
Interestingly, the song's existence traces back to a completely different, unreleased Motown recording, a demo originally cut years earlier by Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers called The Bells I Hear, which Gaye reworked and split apart into 2 separate songs, Baby I'm For Real for the Originals, and The Bells for a different group entirely, a reminder of just how much recycled, repurposed material sat around Motown's vaults waiting to be reshaped into something else. While the Originals had a small handful of additional R&B chart entries in the years that followed, none came remotely close to matching the impact of Baby I'm For Real, which remains the song that defines their entire legacy.
Baby, baby, you don't.
As Motown's business practices came under wider scrutiny in the decades after the label's golden era, groups exactly like the Originals became part of the broader reckoning, background and mid-tier acts whose contributions to some of the label's most enduring records had never translated into the kind of financial security their success should have guaranteed them.
Have to go.
Baby I'm For Real is widely available to stream and watch today, a genuine Motown classic built from the leftover pieces of somebody else's shelved recording session.
Stay a little while longer, baby.
Number 5 belongs to a white singer Motown, promoted more aggressively than almost anyone else on its roster, in a decision that still raises eyebrows decades later.
I wanna talk to you just a.
Number 5, Chris Clark, Love's Gone Bad. In 1966, Motown signed a singer named Chris Clark and did something the label had never done before, positioning a white artist directly alongside its roster of black soul stars and pushing her image in a way that made her stand out immediately from everyone else on the label. Her single Love's Gone Bad, a driving, string-laced soul number, became her biggest and most enduring moment as a performer, a genuinely excellent record that still holds up as one of Motown's most surprising deep cuts. It remains, by a wide margin, the song most listeners associate with Chris Clark today, despite Motown reportedly directing real promotional energy her way, specifically because of the crossover potential her image represented. That extra attention never translated into a career built on more than one signature hit, and Clark's own recording output largely faded from the label's priority list not long after. Clark eventually moved into a different role entirely, working behind the scenes at Motown Productions as a writer and executive on projects including the film Lady Sings the Blues, proof that her talent and value to the company never disappeared, even as her own performing career stalled out after that first major single. Love's Gone Bad is available to stream and watch today, still one of the strangest and most fascinating stories in the entire Motown catalog, an artist promoted harder than almost anyone else on the roster, remembered for exactly one song. Number 4 is a story about a voice so rich it earned comparisons to gospel royalty, and a lawsuit that outlasted her entire marriage. Number 4, Kim Weston, Take Me in Your Arms, Rock Me a Little While. Kim Weston arrived at Motown with a booming, gospel-trained voice that immediately set her apart from almost every other singer on the label. In 1965, she released Take Me in Your Arms, Rock Me a Little While, a driving, horn-punched single that shot to the top of the R&B charts and became, on its own, one of the defining records of that entire year. It remains the song most casual fans associate with Kim Weston, even though she went on to record a beloved duets album with Marvin Gaye the following year. By early 1967, at almost the exact moment that partnership was gaining real momentum on the charts, Weston left Motown entirely in a contract dispute alongside her husband, Motown A&R executive Mickey Stevenson. According to multiple biographical accounts, Kim Weston later sued Motown directly over disputes about the royalties owed to her from her time at the label, one of the earliest examples of a Motown artist formally taking the company to court rather than simply walking away quietly. She moved on to MGM Records afterward, where her releases struggled without the same promotional machine behind them, before eventually finding a second act as a respected community arts advocate in Detroit, later serving her city in an entirely different capacity than the one Motown had originally built her for. Take Me in Your Arms is widely available to stream and watch today, the record of an artist who was willing to challenge Berry Gordy's company in court, at a time when almost nobody else dared to. Number 3 is the story of a group that gave a generation of young men a soundtrack for one of the scariest phone calls of their lives, and never had another hit after it. Number 3, the Elgins, Heaven Must Have Sent You.
I cried so many endless nights.
In 1966, a Detroit vocal group called the Elgins released Heaven Must Have Sent You, a lush, mid-tempo love song produced by Holland Dozier Holland, the same team responsible for some of Motown's biggest #1 hits. It became a genuine hit on the American charts, and it remains, without question, the one song most people know the Elgins for today, the single moment their name broke through to a wider audience. The Elgins' run at Motown was short. Lineup changes and the label's shifting priorities pulled the group apart by 1967, Not long after their one big single had run its course, a common fate for Motown acts who weren't part of the small handful of groups the label chose to build its biggest promotional campaigns around. What happened next is one of the strangest afterlives in the entire Motown catalog. In 1971, 4 years after the group had already broken up, Heaven Must Have Sent You was reissued in the United Kingdom, where the Northern soul scene had developed an obsession with exactly this kind of overlooked American soul record, and the song became a bigger hit in Britain than it had ever been at home, prompting the Elgins to reunite and tour Europe on the strength of a song most American listeners had already forgotten. Like so many of Motown's mid-tier acts from that era, the Elgins' commercial value to the label kept generating income for years after the group itself had stopped actively recording, feeding directly into the same wave of royalty disputes that pulled in Motown artists across the entire roster, from its biggest stars down to its smallest one-hit acts, all making the same basic argument decades later, that the company had profited for years off records the artists themselves had seen very little return from. Heaven Must Have Sent You is available to stream and watch today, a genuine transatlantic Motown story, forgotten at home and rediscovered an ocean away. Number 2 belongs to one of the most powerful female voices to ever come out of Detroit, best known for one blistering ballad and a version of a national anthem that stopped a stadium cold. Number 2, Barbara Randolph, I Got a Feeling. Barbara Randolph never became a mainstream household name, but among serious soul collectors and the devoted Northern soul scene in the United Kingdom, her 1968 single, I Got a Feeling, is considered one of the great lost Motown records, a driving, urgent performance that showcases a genuinely powerful voice the label never fully capitalized on. It remains, essentially, the one song Barbara Randolph is remembered for today. Randolph's Motown tenure was short and largely overshadowed by bigger names on the roster, a common story for the label's mid-tier signees during its most commercially dominant years. She recorded a small handful of additional sides that went largely unnoticed at the time, only for I Got a Feeling to be rediscovered decades later by British soul enthusiasts who recognized what American radio had mostly ignored. Barbara Randolph's story reflects one of the most consistent patterns across Motown's entire history, that the label's smaller, less promoted acts often produced records just as strong as its biggest hits, records that simply never received the marketing budget or chart push needed to become the kind of career-defining success their quality deserved, leaving many of these artists, decades later, among the long list of former Motown talent seeking the financial recognition their contributions to the label's legacy had never actually earned them. I Got a Feeling is available to stream and watch today, a genuine hidden gem from an artist most casual Motown fans have never had the chance to discover. And now, the biggest name on this entire list, an artist whose signature hit is still one of the most recognizable songs in American pop history, and whose fight with Motown became one of the most publicized artist lawsuits the label ever faced. Number 1, Mary Wells, My Guy. Mary Wells became Motown's first true breakout star, earning the nickname the Queen of Motown years before the Supremes ever existed. but it was her 1964 single My Guy, a bright, buoyant, endlessly charming pop soul record that became the song that defined her entire career, hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and remaining, to this day, the single most recognizable recording Mary Wells ever made. Wells left Motown at the height of her fame in 1964, walking away from the label almost immediately after My Guy became a smash hit, driven by frustration over her contract and how little of that success was actually making it back to her financially. It was an enormously risky move for an artist at the absolute peak of her commercial power, and her career afterward never quite recaptured the same magnitude of success she'd had at Motown. Wells spent years afterward maintaining publicly that she had never been properly paid for her work at the label. In 1991, nearly 3 decades after My Guy topped the charts, she finally filed a formal multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Motown, directly alleging that the company had breached her contracts and engaged in unfair business practices by failing to pay her the royalties she was owed. Motown ultimately settled the case for a 6-figure sum, a resolution that, while smaller than what she'd originally sought, represented a genuine legal victory and formal acknowledgement that her claims had merit. My Guy is widely available to stream and watch today, the sound of an artist at the absolute top of her game, who had to wait nearly 30 years and take her former label to court just to get some of what she was actually owed for it. 10 artists, 10 songs most people can still sing along to instantly, and 10 stories about what it actually took, in some cases decades of waiting, to get properly paid for the music that built an empire. If one of these stories surprised you, or if you know of another Motown one-hit wonder who fought the label and won, drop it in the comments below.
You are wondering.
The most requested names on this channel have a way of becoming their own full episode. If you want more of these deep dives into the real business history behind the songs you know by heart, check out our documentaries on Motown's Forgotten Pioneers and the biggest Grammy snubs in R&B history, both linked on screen now and in the description below. Hit subscribe if this list changed the way you'll hear these songs the next time they come on, and we'll see you in the next one, right here on Vinyl Stories.
You touch my heart.